maybe yeah, so what's going on is my camera in between takes is from the webcam, and then like when we're on the air it's this, so sometimes like it might get a little quiet. How's the volume now? Is it like kind of
It's kind of quiet, but I'm just gonna try to listen really, really close, okay?
I'll do my best to enunciate.
Yeah.
You know,
Everything.
you'd be good. But yeah, we'll try to make it work. And if if things are just wave or something, I'm a talker. I might just
That's
no.
nice. Hey, if worst case scenario, you can just talk, and I'll be like, I'll
Yeah,
just do
that'd be
that.
great. That'd be great. We make a good team. All right. All right. So do you prefer Jonathan or John? Before we get on the
I mean,
radio.
most people call me Jonathan, but also, I answer to all kinds of things.
Sure. Yeah, it just
Um,
reminds me of my friend when he was working crew for Mike Watt, and right upon meeting him, was just like you're just learning everyone's names, and it's just like, okay, Tony, what's your name? John? Johnny? Can I call you Johnny? And he's just like, I don't know. All right, Johnny. And he just called him Johnny. I feel like you can kind of get away with that when like you get to a certain age where people just kind of
sure, 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 sure,
yeah,
sure.
you just kind of give up where it's just like, you kind of earned it. You can call me Johnny for the rest of the night. But like, I didn't want to do that the entire show. Just be like, yeah, Johnny, we got Johnny here. Here's Johnny.
It's like, you should be like, what's your name? Oh, it's Jonathan. You look more like a Ben. Could I call you Ben?
Ben, you remind me of my friend Ben. Do you know Ben?
Yeah, do you know Ben?
Have you met Ben? You should meet Ben, actually. It's so crazy. You remind me just like him. Anyway, Ben.
Hey, just for fun, I'm gonna see if I can turn on my Bluetooth speaker, which probably will not work, but it's
well, let's see. The only thing I worry about is like there might be like an echo thing, but I can't
true,
hear that
true,
on my end if that's not coming up on yours.
very true. And let me know, let me know when we're live too, because I don't want to.
Oh yeah, we actually kind of have been, but that's kind of like this part's kind of like the podcast.
Nice.
It's pretty much like this all the time. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you see it. But but yeah, it's we will be live on the radio and internet land, which like we have a few people like
they're
on
both
the Twitch stream. But like I might reiterate some questions just because there are kind of two different audiences tuning in at one point. Like there's kind of like a radio only audience, and then there's some people who kind of stream both of these at home and try to sync them. And then there's like people who only
do they sync up, or do you kind of have to like watch somebody and then be like, wow, they must have just said a really funny joke, and then you wait for it usually.
Right. And there's always kind of a few bugs going just because it is live,
Yeah.
part of the fun, I guess. But yeah, so we got 2 minutes left on this track, and then one more track, and then we'll be back on the air. So yeah, I guess main thing for this is just kind of like let's talk about the release show, like the event itself, just because it's good timing, and now that we got you here. But I definitely come with some questions I'm thinking about asking you, but if there's anything specific you want to mention now that we're on the air, let me know and we can kind of work it in. Otherwise,
I'm curious, what's it like to be you today, Doc?
Not too bad, a little bit chaotic.
Really?
My partner's got some family in town, so just getting the logistics of getting her siblings around, it's just kind of like, it's good, but it's one of those things where I'm just like, oh, I have to wake up earlier to make sure I can do stuff today.
Okay.
Because we gotta do that thing where it's just like, because they're traveling here, we got to clean the Airbnb, make sure they get to the airport on time. But it's been fun. It's been fun seeing everybody.
Wait, do you have like an Airbnb or something? That like
you they do, because they're visiting her.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the situation.
Okay. Like, you're cleaning out the Airbnb and then they're leaving today or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like this whole thing of just like, Oh yeah, let's make sure we get, like, because you know how that goes. It's just more of like moving people is hard.
Mm-hmm. And
Even when
getting
it's
rid of loved ones it's tough to, That's honestly though, it's a good pastime. Just like
yeah,
getting rid of people you love.
Yeah, it's it's a time-honored Minnesotan tradition of
yes,
sure you suck the marrow out of that process and get the most of it.
Exactly. Also, every once in a while, if you say something and I don't laugh, it's probably not that it isn't funny. It's that I might have to like lean in a little bit. And I'm like, I'll do that a couple times probably.
All jokes are going via satellite, so it's just like. But yeah, no, that's pretty much me. What's it like being you today, Jonathan? How's it going?
Oh, thanks for asking. Okay, so what's it like being me? Let me take inventory of my senses right now. I'm a little tired. I got a little swelling behind my eyeballs, so it makes me feel like everything just feels
more of like just because the release junket is kind of grueling. You kind of have to dot all the lowercase j's and cross the lowercase p's. You gotta make sure that's going on. But like, is it more of like a medical thing, or you think you're just tired in general?
I don't think it's medical. Well, I don't honestly. I should probably go to the doctor because I've been saying, I'm not medical for too long.
Doctor.
Yeah. I'm so happy we could speak today.
I got this thing. I'm like, you should totally do that about it. I'm sure that'll work. Not gonna help you there.
You should, you could have WebMD up in the background, or you could just not and just wing it. That's actually the whole purpose of the show.
Just
give medical advice.
Feeding into my hypochondria, which I got from my father. I know that because I also looked that up on WebMD.
Where does my hypochondria come from?
Oh, there's on the father's side. I didn't know that. That makes sense. Okay, and it's always 2 clicks to cancer, so we have that to look forward to.
It's always two what?
On WebMD, everything is just 2 clicks away from cancer. It's just like, it's probably the common cold, or it's, it's esophageal cancer. Like that could be a thing. It's like, I'm sure that's the continuum of WebMD, from the benign to the worst case scenario every time.
Yeah, it makes me think of like, like when you want to like get the benefits of people looking at you a certain way. So like you want to like ascribe to a certain thing so people give you pity or something. Maybe I could like put in like my Instagram bio or something like something very insensitive, like 2-time cancer survivor, and I've never had actual cancer. I just thought I did because I went on WebMD.
I feel like the age of doing that is kind of like over, just because like the internet is like hyper online all the time, where it's just like there's like always people going like, that's not true, or it's just like and then you get the people who like will like almost like troll the debunkers, where it's just like, that's not true because like I grew up with that guy. It's like they totally didn't. And it's it's a weird time to play practical jokes on the internet, I feel like, everything. It's like that Mark Twain quote where it's like, I always tell the truth because that way I don't have to remember anything. Or like, there was that one time where I went online and I made that. I kind of forgot about that, but is it too late to explain the context?
Yeah. And I don't remember the context, honestly. So
no, who does? And it's like the I don't know. There are advantages to both of just kind of having like a record
both lying and honesty.
Right.
Yeah, there's advantages to both.
Speaking of lying and honesty, we're about to go on the air.
Nice. So are we trying to go more for the lying vibe or the honesty vibe?
I'm gonna go with the truth.
Okay, I'll go ahead. Good cop, bad cop type of thing. Okay, I'll try to.
Oh yeah. So if you're just tuning in, that was Silo, the new Silo. They're playing this weekend. The release show is at Palmer's. Katie Tessman's release show is also this weekend at the Astor Cafe. But at the top of that set, we heard the new Wayward. Your release show is not this weekend. It's actually next weekend at KJ's Hideaway, yeah?
Sure is. The KJ's Hideaway. It's a newer venue. I've actually never played a show there before, but talked with the owner. Well, one of the owners, Jeremy. Super nice guy. It was kind of cool.
It's a
It was
great
like
spot. Yeah.
It was like a very kind of refreshing take because I feel like a lot of times like venue owners might not know necessarily what it's like to be on stage sometimes, and so it's kind of cool. Like he was like telling me all these things. He's like, oh yeah, so we wanted to put your you could put your merch booth up by the stage, or you could put it back and where people might not feel intimidated to come up to it, or like yeah, we can do this thing or this thing or this thing or this thing, like so many things that he had thought of ahead of time. I was like, wow, this guy's like actually like he's very thoughtful, and I think like so that makes me like extra excited for the show.
Yeah, especially trying to think about what would make the audience more comfortable to watch a show is always so I really like that spot because I don't know if you remember Vu Carré or the old Artist Quarter, but that's where KJ's Hideaway kind of inherited that space, and it's a really cool spot to see a show and play a show. So it's like it's got that old jazz club feel because it was one at one point.
I've actually I never went to the previous venue because I guess I'm too aloof from society. I don't think I'm cool enough to like be super like I've always envied the people who like know everything about the Twin Cities music venues scene, and I've always been like, I don't know, like I feel like there's like a new like person, new artist, new venue, new thing like every day that I just am like
every 5 seconds. Yeah, it's kind of amazing, but also a little bit intimidating. It's like drinking from the fire hose. Just where does this end? Yeah, it's not ending with me. I know that. that is definitely the case. Let's talk about your new record here because your previous EP did great numbers, and now this is your first full-length LP. Is that correct?
Sure is, my friend. Yeah, pretty crazy. Like I started doing music in like 2016. So like before then, obviously I practiced and stuff, but I was like, all right, I want to do this show thing and traveling around and playing music in like 2016. And then I recorded this album I recorded the EP that I didn't really know what I was doing. It's just like very, like I tried my very hardest because, well, honestly, there was like a lot of insecurity that I felt. And so I was like, if this thing isn't really, really good, it's going to be like, I'm a failure. Nobody's going to love me type of thing.
Of course. That's always in the back of.
It's a logical step. Yeah. You see what I mean? Yeah.
Did you self-produce?
So that was, I'm so sorry. Also, if you're just tuning in, my audio is for some reason, my phone is very quiet. So if I can't hear Doc and he says something really funny, it's your responsibility as the audience to laugh really hard because I might not be able to hear how funny it is.
We'll do I'll slow everything down. So did you self-produce both these records, or did you work with someone for the recordings?
So the EP that I recorded in 2017, that one was I fully did that all myself, more or less, on the just on my old computer. And just stared at the audio tracks for long enough until I was like, please sound good. Please sound good. That's basically what I did. And then this new album kind of was like, in 2017, I like knew I wanted to, do more music stuff. And so I wanted to record an album. I approached this dude, a friend of a friend, and he was, his name's Dan Derlo. And he's worked with a bunch of like, big names and stuff. And so I was kind of like intimidated at first, I think. And then he and I became, pretty good friends. And and so we recorded this album, and it was kind of nuts because like I didn't really know how recording in a with somebody producing you felt, because I think it's different if you're just recording purely what you think is cool. And actually there are advantages and disadvantages to both. But I agree. But it was kind of like it was very much a growing experience where like I would record a bunch of stuff and I'd be like, this is awesome. Dan, you're going to love it. You're going to absolutely love it. You're going to love it. And then he'd listen to it like, I think you can do better type of thing. And so that was kind of like the start. And so it's kind of like it was a lot of work, We put so much thought into like every single note, like so many, like just playing a little guitar part. Like I don't think there was a single like strum of a guitar on the entire album, which is kind of what I used to do. I'm so sorry, I was quiet. What was that?
Oh no, it's just kind of like every strum is intentional now. It's like
I guess now that I think about it, they're like individual strums, but it wasn't like dum dum ba dum dum ba dum. Like it wasn't like a strumming guitar type of thing. Which, by the way, if we have a song that goes dum dum ba dum dum ba dum, that would be a hit. That would be amazing.
Yeah, right off.
Did you hear that? Oh my gosh!
Things are going to happen to me now.
Wait, what'd you say?
Things are just going to start happening to me now. It's all.
Yeah. I'm waiting for a call from the Grammys any second now.
So you worked on because I actually discovered this record from the videos you've been putting out.
Yeah.
And so like how did they, like, are you going like the full Bo Burnham here? Like, is this just you inside with cameras, or are you also working with someone to get these angles as well? Because the live performance shots are really well thought out. Like you can see where you're going. And you can also, the shot is ambiguous enough where it's just like, you don't quite know where the next loop is going to come up. So like, were you doing this yourself, or did you have kind of a team pointing cameras at you?
That's, first of all, that's cool that you discovered through videos. Do you happen to remember, was it like a looping video, or like one like here at my house, which is like me playing a straight up guitar? You have to remember?
So it seemed like you were kind of in a studio. That was like the first one I saw, and then I checked out your channel, and there's you have a few from your house as well. But it seems like you had like a handful from this like, studio spot. It's like an upright piano, and then you also had your gear kind of like set up with it. So that's
kind of pretty, isn't it? It was kind of nice. It was so that one is actually at so Reverb and Echo Studio. Shout out Reverb and Echo Studio, by the way.
There we go.
So that's Dan, my buddy Dan. That's his studio. He actually built that studio out of like an old barn. It was an old barn that, like, at first, you know, you might think, oh yeah, you could just build something inside of there. But he actually went like completely from the ground up. He tore down like everything except like, I don't remember all the building stuff of it, but he like tore out everything underground, made this whole studio from like basically the ground up, and actually made it not just functional, but like look really pretty. Just everywhere is just beautiful. And I just honestly, like that was cool to see him like kind of flourish that way. Anyway, shout out to Reverb and Echo Studio. But that video was really cool, and we kind of like met with each song, and probably like worked through each song for like an average of 1 to 2 days. Just like literally like, all right, so you have this song. How do we kind of like make it as interesting as possible with, and like the looping. So if somebody's listening and you haven't seen my music yet, sometimes I do looping. So it's like you record an instrument thing, and you can record it into the looper, and you go boom, cut, boom, cut, boom, cut, and then you have that going cut. That's going on in the back of cut, to boom, cut, and then you can have a different part you're playing on the keyboard or the guitar, or you can like sing something into the microphone. You can all kind of have it looping in there. So so sometimes, like, that's very hard to make interesting for a long time, because like you're recording the same things, and so like it takes like a lot of strategy to try to like make it.
Of course it does.
Just like everything's repeating the whole time. You kind of want to have things dropping in and out and stuff, and then also like expressively, like what is this song trying to say, and are you like stepping on the song by like trying to make all these weird production things?
Exactly. Yeah. It's actually what caught my eye about these videos, is just because like I don't know, there's like that little part of someone who's been in the industry for like 2 decades at this point. There's like that weird little like bitterness. It's like one of these, huh? But, like, as I kept watching it, it's like, oh, like he's actually making space for like all the next ideas, and it's like you were doing it in a very clever way. And I wanted to point that out, because you're absolutely right. It is really hard to make that interesting, because I've seen so many acts where it's like you start it and it's like it's almost like a Shaggy Dog story. Like it's almost like that thing like you learn in theater camp, where it's just like, oh, there is no punchline to the joke.
There is no punchline.
Hold on. It's going to be awesome. Watch this. I'm going to I'm getting now. Am I going to do that? No, keep it. You got to keep with me. It's going to be great. And it's just like this endless loop. It's really hard to build a loop, make it interesting, but also make it sound like a song, where it's just like sometimes like if you can't loop without playing the song, like is it really a song? Where it's just like there's songs in what you're doing. It's really clever, and I really appreciated it. But shout out to your friend for doing that barn, because that's hard to do. It's hard to like renovate anything, but to renovate something like that's intense.
Yeah. The studio that you're in, by the way, are you speaking from experience? Have you had to do all the work of trying to renovate a space, or is that?
No, well, I've helped friends like do demo stuff, but that's just like, hey, we knocked down a thing and I need friends to shovel the thing into the thing, and we're gonna move it out so this room can be something else one day. But I've had friends, they bought a farm and there was a barn on the property, and immediately that like the hard eyes started going into effect. Like the dream was there. It's like,
okay, yeah,
I got a barn. I got an old barn. I'm gonna turn this barn into a recording studio. And then they went in there, and like the whole state government was just like, yeah, I wouldn't use this barn for anything. We're like, this is not up to code. Like if you want to do this, it's like so it kind of crushed him a little bit, because
that is kind of sad, yeah.
Like even the contractor was like, honestly, if you wanted to do that, like you could just do that in your garage. And it's just like, I guess. Kind of disappointed, because
it doesn't have I think that's like just like visually, and like it's almost nice to have the contrast of like a very rustic look.
Sure.
Like, okay, so I think about contrast in like visual contrast, or like any type of contrast. It's always like makes things more interesting. So when there's something that's like contrasting of old and it looks like it's going to fall down, but it's awesome on the inside, that contrast I think is what's so charming to us in our minds. And so then you're like, oh man,
of course, no, absolutely. And it's so if you like what you heard at the top of the set, where can listeners hear it again, especially since we've been talking about the videos? Like, where can they get all this stuff? Because that's where I discovered it, and chances are they might be interested as well.
Yeah, thanks for asking. Okay, so basically, if you want to check out a video, you can go to a website called youtube.com. It's a new website. I don't know if you've heard of it before.
Oh, okay. I think so.
Yeah, it's YouTube. I don't know if I should spell it, maybe youtube.com. YouTube.com.
Again. .org, okay. All right, I got you.
So it might be yeah, that's it. So if that's your thing, you could, if you're into new websites, youtube.com. You can just search Wayward. You probably would, if you search Wayward Happiness, that's probably the most viewed video on YouTube. Or if you just search Wayward on Facebook. Actually, Facebook I think has more videos, because some of them I didn't post like the portrait. Like there's like you have landscape videos and portrait, and I think I just felt weird about posting a portrait video on YouTube. But maybe I should just do it anyways, or maybe I'll just crop it where it's just like this and then the wall. I don't know.
Yeah, no, but there's an aesthetic to that. I get that. Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, check that out. We still have, I believe, one track left on your Desert Island Picks list. So hang tight for that. But we still have some local music coming up. These are bands not playing release shows for this new music, but the new music is here nonetheless. We're going to hear from Mama Rose, but this track is from Lays and Low here on Desert Islands.
Doc, have you been doing radio for a while?
I have actually. I started doing college radio, and then
where was that, by the way?
Well, it's funny because I dropped out of Augsburg.
Okay.
I like a Ben Folds song. I did 3 sad semesters there, and then dropped out, and then I went to McNally Smith. Rest in peace, McNally Smith. But they didn't have a college radio station. So what happened was me and my friends started one in our basement. Because at the time it was just like, well, if you have enough bandwidth, you can just start your own online station. And because like I was one of the annoying people going like, why don't we have a college radio station? We're like the music college.
Yeah.
Have a music station for all the music fans who go to the music college.
I think that's a reasonable
and they're just like, no, it's not in the budget. And then I just kept going, like, okay, well, what if we did an online station? Because that is in the budget. We can use like the computers that we're not using, like over there, like those, like that one.
That one.
And they're like, nah. And then so like I did my like senior thesis, like the thing you have to do to graduate for your major, on basically like I was like at this point it was like I was like Jordan in The Last Dance of just like I took that personally, like the fact that like I was like, this is so easy to do. So we did it, and we like did it in our basement for a while. And then my senior thesis was just like, okay, how do you do this? And it's just like, well, what are your sources? I was like, we've been doing this for a year and a half. Here's like our ad revenue. Here's where it comes from. Here's where the stuff is. So after I graduated, they implemented that plan.
Wow.
But so I've been
that is actually really cool.
I actually started volunteering here after a bad breakup, because it was just like, like right at college, you're that like transition, and we were like graduating, and it was like one of those things where it's just like, I feel like we were just kind of being different people. Like we both knew what we wanted to do, but like I don't think either of us that would have fit.
Sure.
So it was just kind of like, where am I supposed to go? And then I started volunteering here. And then when a show opened up, I just kind of I started here doing music news. Like every once in a while I would come on and do 2 minutes on other people's shows and just be like, I'm just gonna read this thing. And then I'm this person, and then you're off. And then when a show opened up, I just kind of auditioned, and they were like, yeah, all right, it just. So it's been kind of a long.
Wow, dude, that like the idea of like starting off at, well, I mean, there's so much in that story, and probably so many like emotions you felt outside of radio and all that stuff. But it's just kind of cool, like within the scope of radio, like that you started off, reading. The fact that you say just reading, it makes it sound like you were probably like, don't mess up kind of mindset. Like I want to make sure I'm perfect.
Yeah.
And then like for you to kind of flourish into now like being able to just relax and be yourself. That's really cool. I'm really like happy for you. It's so cool.
Appreciate that. Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you. It's just like I also can we talk about the concept? Can we talk about the concept of happiness? No, but like the concept of the record happiness. Just because like I do think like most things, I feel like happiness is a lot of work, but it's also like the weather. Like it just kind of comes and goes.
Wait, could you repeat that? I was trying to fix my blinds so that the sun wasn't shining in my eyes, but the blinds don't even block the sun. So I'm just gonna have sun in my eyes. Would you say that again?
So it's like I feel like while happiness is like a lot of work, it's also sort of like the weather. Like it kind of comes and goes. There is like some sort of like reaping what you sow, and it's just like you can try to plant things for the future, but you can't really plan for everything. And I like how you explore the themes of just happiness, where it's just like, sometimes, happiness is being able to afford extra guac, but sometimes it's like, it's not even about, having the money. Like, and that's a whole conversation to accept. That's when you like turn into Bernie Sanders of just like, no one in the richest country in the world should guac be extra in a nation that's prosperous.
That's a fun impression.
The billionaires are taking the guac out of hardworking Americans' pockets.
I love it. We have I almost said Bernie Madoff. No, Bernie Sanders here. Can we get Bernie Madoff in here too?
What does Bernie Madoff sound like? I feel like that's like one of those things where it's like everyone knows that guy. There's like documentary, but like, has anyone heard that guy talk? Maybe that's the point. That's kind of
maybe that is the point.
Away with a money laundering scheme. It's like maybe the guy no one's paying attention to, and then it's just like, and then all of a sudden everyone's paying attention to you.
Yeah,
it's like that's kind of how it works.
I wonder if they use that on purpose to try to use him as a scapegoat. Maybe he did something. Maybe he got on somebody's bad side. Some real big rich guy, and he's like, you know what, Bernie, we're gonna send you to jail for something you never did or something like that. I just imagine this guy's from whatever that's from, Jersey or something.
I wonder if there is like a pope of organized crime at that level, where it's like when something really bad happens, like everyone kind of gets together and they just need a fall guy, and they're like,
exactly.
It's Bernie this time. Sorry,
exactly.
Go down. And like,
ideally, I mean, blaming Bernie is that's the ideal person to blame. Also, blaming Bernie is a pretty good band name.
Yeah, it's not or at least a Netflix documentary.
Yeah.
Like blaming Bernie.
We can make a documentary based on absolutely zero evidence. Like Bernie Madoff was framed.
That's kind of where like I feel like the internet's kind of gone. Where it's just like if you're gonna lie on the internet, you have to go like to such epic proportions. Like you have to hire a film crew. You have to like just so like the bit has to be so outlandish for people to be like, oh, okay, this is a bit. You know, like but now
to make it a bit. Oh, okay.
You know, like where it's like it's and I think that pendulum will swing just because like that's how things always go. Like
Go
this way, and then people kind of shift this way, and I think that's just kind of where we're shifting no one knows what's going on. If anyone,
I also think it's like
you should do, it's like they don't know because they'd be doing it themselves if it actually worked. They just want to tell people, you know what you should do. No one knows.
I wonder if it's also some type of like social credibility of like if you have, you know, a really fancy looking video, like it makes me think of like sometimes like, you know, comedians, like I love comedy, and I think sometimes like if a comedian says a joke on stage, it's like clear they're like, oh, okay, like they're making a joke. But if somebody like says it and it isn't like it doesn't land with the audience, and there isn't like a context of I'm on stage, there's like all these people that are agreeing that we're joking about this.
They are very serious. It's a very serious point. And I like Mark Maron's quote about it, where it's just like there is like kind of like a weird legitimacy of just like, you know, like if someone has a video, we're like, yeah, but where are they getting their information? But if someone wrote a book, it's just like, well, where'd you get that? It's like, I don't know. It's written by a guy who writes books, you know, like it's like, that's what he does. He writes books. Like
he's probably good at it.
The guy that writes books, you know, like
he does this professionally.
Right. So like when there is like a different veneer when the video quality is just like, well, I don't know. I mean, like this person kind of has the budget to like, you know, I doubt they would just be kind of messing around here, you know.
Also, I don't know if you did this on purpose, but for a second there, you sounded a lot like John Mulaney.
It's kind of that's the thing about comedians is because timing is part of it. It's almost like kind of music in that way.
Yeah, it actually
it's easy to start talking in other people's cadences. Like especially comics you like because I remember like everyone was trying to copy a certain comedian. Like everyone was like trying to talk like Dane Cook, and then like there was like a whole thing like this was years ago. This is like 10 years ago. And it's like, and then like everyone was doing Dave Attell. Everyone wanted to talk like Dave Attell because it's funny, and everyone sounds funnier when they talk like Dave Attell. You know, like that, that cadence. But yeah, it's really hard not to, especially since like that Salt and Pepper Diner story is like one of the funniest bits I think I've ever heard. Have you ever heard that bit?
To be honest, I haven't, and I thought for a second, should I like pretend I have? And I think I'm gonna pretend I have. Like that is good.
I almost don't want to ruin it for you because it's just like comedy is like the most easily spoiled thing, you know, like people just like they just fast forward to the good bits and then it becomes like, unlike a song that you can listen to every time, like the payoff doesn't, so it's like, I almost don't want to spoil it for you, but like the premise is basically when they were younger, him and his friend went to a diner and they basically like took over the touch tunes of that, like the jukebox at the diner. And they started doing like a social experiment of like what would happen if you just played Tom Jones' What's New Pussycat like 30 times. Like what would happen, like, and they just did that and watched what happened to the diner as it got like crazier and crazier and crazier, because people realize like, because there's this whole psychological thing of just like, wait, is this song longer than I remember? And then like when people figure out that like they're kind of caught in this loop of just like, they just lose their mind because people were just like, this restaurant won't stop playing. So like he just tells that story of like watching that unfold, and it was like this like the best. It's like the best prank they've ever pulled. And
I don't think I've seen it, but yeah, I could see what like everybody feels like there's an evil musical overlord trying to ruin their diner experience.
Because it's like you kind of just have to watch it. That's part of like that you had to be there kind of thing. Like stand-up comedy is kind of like that, where like music, I feel like stand-up and live performance of music are actually eerily similar.
Yeah.
But there are few things you can kind of get away with as a comic that you can't get away with as a musician, and vice versa. You know, like,
yeah, that's actually kind of a fun comment. Yeah, you totally can. Because like if you're
if we bomb on stage banter where it's just like, hey, I have a joke, and people are like, either you said it too quick or it just wasn't as funny as you thought it was. Like you at least have an instrument to be like, all right, we're
exactly
hide behind that.
And also people don't come to the show like they aren't like I think I thought about that actually, because I think like sometimes I feel like, okay, the more like just friendly the environment, the more everything just feels more free, and the more things feel free, like just the more relaxed it is, and things like it doesn't feel like you have to like, you know, be super funny, and it's just like you're just hanging out with friends basically. But I've thought about that because I was like, sometimes I say funny things, but I would never want to be a comedian. Because, well, at least I don't think currently I'd want to be a comedian. Because if you're a comedian, like people aren't showing up like, hey, I want to listen to your music, and then, oh, that's kind of a funny thing you said. As like that's what it is for a musician. Whereas they come to a comedy show and they're like, all right, are you funny or are you not? Right. Oh, you're not funny. You know what I mean? Like,
and then if you are funny, people stop talking to you like a person. They just quote your bits at you. I've heard I worked this gig because I also work in venues as well, where they were doing a question. It was like a Q&A with Carrie Elways of Princess Bride. He was in Princess Bride.
Okay. And, is that the which actor or actress is that?
So he was Wesley, the actor who played Wesley.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah.
And he was talking about like when they released the video. God, wow.
The video.
When they released the movie on YouTube, it kind
was it on YouTube.com?
Yeah. I wonder. It probably is actually, legally and illegally at this point. But he was kind of talking about like, well, you know, back then there wasn't really anything to like if your movie bombed, like there wasn't like a redemption. And then people started watching it on VHS. And then all the actors from that movie, like everybody was working in other things. Like they did that movie expecting it like, oh, this would be great. It went nowhere. So they all moved on. They all did other stuff. You know, Andre the Giant was like the biggest wrestler. Like he could just go back to being Andre the Giant. But like the actor who played Vicini was like doing off-Broadway stuff. And like he was doing, you know, like, and he's actually like apparently like a really smart guy. But like Carrie was talking about like how unlike musicians where people were like, oh, I love that album. When people like actors or comedians stuff, like out of nowhere, like he would be getting a coffee down the street and someone would just be like, inconceivable. Like just like out of like nowhere. And then like two people started doing it and then everyone started doing it. And like now anytime that guy's in public, people say inconceivable. Or like Carrie was talking about, like, I knew things were like getting out of hand because I had no idea that this was popular. But when the wait staff, when I would like order a sandwich and be like, oh, can I get it medium rare? Like they would always just go, as you wish. And it's like so like wow. With comics, like you just get your bit quoted at you. And like, how do you have a conversation with that? Where it's just like, thank you very much. And then they just come with another bit. You're like, really glad you liked the show.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Like
yeah.
I would not know how to deal with that.
Yeah.
I need to run away.
Mm-hmm.
Stand by. We're gonna go back on the air here.
Oh, okay.
So that was the last pick on the Desert Island Picks list. If you're just tuning in, this is Desert Islands, the show where I make a mixtape for my guests based on the 10 records they would bring to a desert island. And today's mixtape is for Wayward, and that was the final pick. We actually got all 10 in, and I've been slipping some things that I thought would go with the playlist as well. Things I just try would like, you might like this. So if I miss, apologies, but
I hate that song.
No. It was actually interesting putting this list together, because you would think, like, oh yeah, this would go really well, and it's just like, now you have to have some interesting bridges to make a playlist, which is kind of like the fun for me. It's like the Sudoku puzzle that I get to do every week. It keeps me sharp. But so you are let's talk about this Desert Island Picks list, because you are self-taught, right? Like, you're a self-taught musician. Like,
sure, I am. Are you?
I am too, actually.
Okay.
Because that was another thing I wanted to ask. Nice. Yeah. What record came into your life first? Because I feel like with self-taught musicians, I feel like it's like a chicken or the egg thing. Like, either they hear a record where it's like, I don't know how, but I got to figure out how to do that, or they pick up instruments and kind of teach themselves, and then they hear a record where it's just like, wait, I want to learn that.
Yeah.
Like, what was it for you? Like, was there a record on this list that kind of started that for you?
So that's a good question, because so I thought when you first were like, hey, send me the 10 albums you would take to a desert island, I was like, oh, easy, that'll be easy.
It's hard.
It actually is really hard, because I thought, like, you think through all your history and all, you're like, okay, this is like, these are the first albums you like really love. But actually, the first album that I like adored, the two of them are not on this list, which like is heartbreaking a little bit to me. But they were from a band called 10th Avenue North. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they had two different albums. There's like Over and Underneath and Light Meets the Dark. And those two albums I listened to like so annoyingly much. Like I played it in a sports team in high school. I played it in the locker room, and I'd always be like, guys, this is cool, right? This is cool. And everyone would be like, can we listen to like something like something like, we want to listen to like Jump Around. Yeah. Which, by the way, is a better pick for the locker room. I wasn't a very good DJ for the locker room.
Fun fact, Cypress Hill actually did the beat to Jump Around.
Wait, what's that?
Cypress Hill actually did the beat for Jump Around, which is why it still holds up.
Wait, who did?
Cypress Hill. It's kind of a weird little factoid about that House of Pain track, where it's just like, who are these guys? It's like, well, they had some help.
Yeah. There is something just so like, I mean, yeah, the beat itself was nuts for that. But then also like, I love the simplicity of just, so get off your feet and jump around. Yeah. Jump around. Like, so simple, but like, honestly, sometimes simple is just like, okay, I like it. Like, it doesn't feel like it obligates you to think really hard about it, which sometimes I prefer to think really hard about it. But in terms of like something that just like catches your attention, like, oh, that's cool, and you listen to the screaming sound in the background of that song.
Oh yeah, it's hard. Like it's hard to distill something into like 4 words. Like, just because it's simple, like coming up with something simple enough to like convey to like an audience of millions, that's so hard. I mean, that's why poetry is hard. Like, trying to distill, I wonder if it's actually like 5 words. Ooh, that's a big ask.
I wonder if we could do it here on today's show. If maybe the simpler the better, and we just gotta figure out what it is. But we should just kind of look around the room and be like, Play-Doh's cool, and like kind of start with something like that. Which, by the way, I like how I said look around the room, and I don't have any Play-Doh in this room, but I like to think that actually, like, behind the camera, there's just like walls of Play-Doh structures that I built. I've just like worked for years on these Play-Doh.
What made you think of Play-Doh? Nothing. Just came to my head.
yeah, exactly.
So that was the record you discovered. So what instrument did you start on? Because like
I started with.
Is it guitar or piano? Because I feel like self-taught musicians usually start with one.
Yeah. It was guitar for me.
Nice.
Guitar for me. Yeah, and I just like I literally, I think it was yesterday, I was listening to old like, you know, songs I recorded from when I was like really into those two albums. Sure. And it's kind of funny because you have different like different phases of your journey, whether it's with music or just life in general, things that like you've been like you get interested in, and you probably kind of suck at first, and you probably will, like in some ways, like you'll never be perfect or whatever, but yeah, it was kind of interesting to listen to like me trying to impersonate the voice of this guy, sure, you know, and I didn't do a good job because I didn't like know vocally what he was doing versus what I was doing, but it's so interesting to like think of the fact that my tone was influenced by my adaptation of what I thought he was trying to do. So vocally, and then also like, you know, lyrically and stuff like that too. But anyways, that isn't even on this pick list. And you asked about the pick list, so I feel like I'll try to do better about staying on topic.
It's well, I mean, and that's hard to do in general when we're not doing that. But it is kind of like I like what you said. It's just you're kind of just never done in anything, in music and life or anything. But like when you first start out, you kind of have to mimic someone else's voice before you can find your own because of that. And Adam Neely is on YouTube, that site, that modern site. He has
website. Oh, nice.
Like the ham sandwich. You know, a lot of what musicians do is kind of like making a ham sandwich, where it's like, did you invent the ham sandwich? No, but the way you're putting it together is kind of your own thing. You can really own that. And you kind of find your ways of making the sandwich by like learning from other people of just like, that sandwich would be a lot better if you made it this way. And then you try it that way. And then you start to develop like your own taste and like, well, I this is how I make it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like nothing's really original. None of us are, but like we are completely at the same time. Like nothing is like quite like us as individuals, which is kind of part of the fun and kind of why music is exciting, because everyone gets to add their own perspective on it. But we can talk about this for hours, and we don't have hours, but unfortunately we have less than 10 minutes left, and the next program after mine is Democracy Now! So want to make sure this ends on time, but we got the top 10 list and we got all this in here. We do have some messages from friends who make this program possible to play, but before we get into that, is there anything you would want our listeners to know about before we get going here? I know we have the release show next weekend, but is there anything you want to make sure folks know about before we have to sign off here?
Sure. I feel like if I was like a really good media trained person, I probably would have had like an exact scripted out thing that I should say here. But here I don't have a script, but I'm gonna pretend I do. Okay.
There we go. That works.
No, yeah. This album basically, it's been written around like this whole idea of like you try to like chase happiness, and it feels like it never really sticks. It's like you chase little like 3-second bursts of happiness, and like whether it's like with food or relationships or like sunlight or there you get this little like glimpse of happiness, and it's great. Like I'm in the sunlight, and then eventually my eyes get tired, and I'm gonna want to take a nap. Or like eventually I get the first couple bites of food, they taste delicious, and then gradually I just need more, and I need to constantly like eat more of that delicious thing in order to get that feeling, and then eventually it fades away and fades away. And then like with relationships, like you're with somebody that like you at one point were like, oh, if I could only be in a relationship with them, my life would be complete, type of thing. Perfect. And you're like, well, it's all and it's not that you don't love them at all. It's like they can't make you like fulfilled. Like it's just not possible. Like, and no like good thing that I've ever experienced has like an infinite amount of goodness. And so kind of the whole album was like just like talking about that and how like kind of mournful it is that all good things die. And one of the lines that I really like at the end of the album is like, what if we lived in a world where good things didn't have to end, where the grass was somehow green on our side of the fence? What if the very thought of happiness is proof that it exists? And what if redemption's more than we said it is? And yeah, so I really, really, really like I've cried over this album so many times. But
I mean, it's hard to find a better place to leave it than right there. So thank you so much for coming on the show. We got some Glass Animals coming up next, but first we have this.
Now it's time for a Men in Black show. Michael Jeffrey Jordan was born on February 17, 1960.
No, I really loved the way you would explore that, because like I love how you like have whole songs about the mundane things, because like there are times, especially like if people battle with depression, where it's like sometimes like that mundane thing is all you have.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing bringing you happiness. But then like it's like there's like when you're in a good spot, you're looking at those things like in a different light, where it's just like this is just fleeting and it's not really gonna and it's like it's always like kind of ever presently two sides of the same coin. And it's like, and then you start exploring where it's like, oh no, only the big things can possibly make me happy. And then like you're trying to go for like the next big thing. And it's like especially like it like with your career, like when you try to be like, oh, my life's gonna be better when this happens to me. And if you're lucky for it to happen, it's like this box with like it's like empty, and there's like a, you know, it's like basically like your princess is in another castle. Like it's kind of like that never-ending thing. So you go back to like the little things, and you're like, no, this is what it's about. And it's just like it's always like this weird game.
Interesting. Yeah, where you're trying, you think that, okay, so you I like the your princess is in another castle. That's good. Like maybe she's avoiding you, bro. Maybe
maybe it's you.
Maybe she like doesn't like you as much as you think she likes you. But no, I like that. And then like so there's like the big thing you're chasing, and then like on the way down the spiral staircase of the turret of that castle, and you go to another castle, and all that journey, you're like, well, boy, this sucks. I better like it'd be nice to enjoy some stuff along the way. But like, and then you get there and you're like, well, this doesn't work either. It's like, what is the end to this madness?
Then there's always like that weird thing where it's just like you start. It's like I guess you can choose to be happy sometimes.
Sure.
You know, like that. Like I do think it's like there is a possibility to try to see the silver lining in things.
Sure.
But there also is a point where that becomes toxic, where it's just like if you don't address the thing that is actually making you sad, you know, like it becomes this, you know, trying to repeat the same thing and expecting the same results is kind of insane. You know, so it's like it's
kind of dehumanizing to yourself too, to like to
it is to
always
not
really like allow yourself to feel how sad things are. Oh, I'm so sorry. The audio was quiet. What'd you say?
It's like you're constantly beating yourself up for not lifting yourself up, and it's just like it becomes like this reinforcing thing of just like I gotta, you know, you're right. I gotta be better about seeing that. It's just like, you know, it's okay to just admit you had a tough day.
Yeah, sure.
Like, some days they're just hard. Sometimes you're lifting heavy things, and it's okay to admit. But other times, like there are those moments where you can be honest with yourself, just like, you know what. You could have slowed down and just enjoyed the ice cream cone. That's what it was there for. Like, it was there to be that like sugary wisp of happiness, and it's, you know, it's not meant to last. It's, you know, it's kind of meant to fade in a weird way, and like, so like I like how like you did like tackle. It's like, hey, it's not all about like the light stuff. It's just like, well, no, let's talk about how I view relationships. Let's talk about like, you know, because like happiness is weird. It is a weird concept. You know,
kind of like it reminds me of this song that's actually on this album that's I wrote called 3 Seconds, and it like it like just I remember starting writing it when I was on the road. Just funny how this works. I was on the road, you know, in some ways chasing happiness of like, I wanted to be fulfilled at these shows to some extent. You know, maybe I didn't say it like that at the time, but like to some extent I want to be fulfilled here because there are very, very, very like fulfilling interactions that can happen at shows. And so I was chasing those and so that's why I was gone from home. And I remember writing the song because I wrote about my brother's birthday. I think it was his 18th or 19th birthday. Yeah. And I think my family was going to the Vikings game, which is like not a normal thing for my family at all. It was like, yeah, so it was like a special occasion, and they're like, yeah, we're going to the Vikings game for, you know, Joshua's birthday. And yeah, so I remember writing this song, and I was like, man, this is like really sad. Like, I'm missing this thing. Like I'm kind of like on the road so that I can, you know, enjoy the things about these shows. Also, so that I can be home and enjoy the people that I love, but I'm not with the people that I love. And then when I go home to be with the people that I love, I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry, I haven't been able to make it to your city in a while. Like, I'll try to make it as soon as I can.
I haven't been. Yeah, and it's like this constant like, oh, I'm not around, but like it's never ending.
Blah, blah,
yeah.
blah, 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 blah.
What's that?
Me.
Oh,
no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Sorry.
No. I didn't hear it. Are we in trouble?
No. We're good.
Can we try to get in trouble by the end of the show?
Sorry. What's
I'll
up?
let you finish up.
We are kind of getting there. The schedule bot, which actually is what it's called. It's called the KFAI schedule bot. Has told me that Amy Goodman is on in 30 seconds. So yeah, we probably should wrap it up. Kind of a awkward place to do it, but it's fine. It's fine.
Oh, this is beautiful. This is really fun talking with you.
I had a great time. Thanks for taking the time to do it. I know you got to get going by like noon 30, so it would probably a good point to end it. But congrats on the new record. Congrats on the release show, and everything sounds great. And it was really good to meet you and talk to you today. Hope you have a.
It's really good to meet with you too. Yeah. And also, thanks for listening, everybody.
Absolutely. All right, I'm gonna click the little button here and then the button.
All right.
But yeah, have a good one.